This wizard with a lightning bolt on his forehead is one of the only reasons that this exists. And at its very core, this show, Avatar the Last Airbender, understands one thing maybe even better than the two series that its network was trying to emulate. A problem that anime has been struggling with for decades. Power. In the early 2000s, Nickelodeon was looking for a show that was similar to Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. So when these two went in to pitch their coming-of-age animated series about their own experiences, it didn't go well. But the next attempt did. They pitched a different show, a show more aligned with what Nick was searching for, one that challenged essentially everything that the network had put on TV prior. Another character with something on his forehead. And it worked. And I think this is because every bit of this show is built around understanding how to depict Not yet. We'll get there. Avatar isn't like the animated shows it released around. It was designed to grow with its audience. There was a hidden aging curve underneath it all. The original idea, again, was a coming-of-age show. So instead, when that didn't work out, they built a coming-of-age experience for the audience itself. Book 1 plays like a youthful adventure show. The Kyoshi Warriors, the tone, it's playful for the most part. Then Book 2 slowly molds into a political thriller, asking its audience to invest more seriously and intellectually in its story. And then Book 3 is a full-scale war drama. Invasion failures, extremely mature themes of loss at large scales, a completion of this show's themes growing up. And this is very important because for most shows like this, by Book 2 or Season 2, we'd start to see power become the only thing driving the show, the thing creating the excitement. It would use power to mature instead of storytelling, both physically and otherwise. But Avatar doesn't do this. It grew its characters alongside its audience, and it did so by grounding its writing in its thematic content. And as a result, it gets another thing right. It's paced like a movie trilogy.
There's no war in Ba Sing Se.
Perfectly. Again, abandoning the trappings of its contemporaries. Book 1, discovery, we meet our world and the threat. Book 2, the collapse, the threat encroaches, our heroes lose it all. Darkest midpoint possible here. Ba Sing Se has fallen, Azula wins, and Aang is essentially gone. Book 3, rebuild and reach our confrontation with our villain. Avatar is maybe the single best example of long-form animated storytelling structure its network ever put to air. And again, by being so in tune with how its story was going to be built, it used this structure to grow. It didn't use power and scaling as a crutch. But there are much bigger power problems. Bad timing again. This is not a shot at Dragon Ball Z at all. But okay, let's talk about this, sort of. It'll be more important in a minute. Where Avatar really starts to avoid the power problems most shows like it have is in its influences and its tone. Avatar is obviously inspired by a number of anime, but it's also a cultural collage of sorts. These are similar to Tibetan monks, here Imperial Japan and a little bit of the British, Chinese history, you get the point. It was one of the first Western animated shows to use cultural synthesis more than cultural borrowing. It's inspiration, not an attempt at cloning. But more acutely, before Avatar, Western animated shows rarely embraced anime-style storytelling. There was often no serialized narrative, villains were rarely all that complex, the camera work was rarely a tool or used for style, yet it did all of this. And it did so without becoming a copy of it, which for other shows has been hard to do when translating ideas from anime to Western animation.
Now that the legendary power of the Super Saiyan has awakened within him, don't miss the next exciting episode of
Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, for example, were built around power. Power scaling was the entire point. How powerful could these characters get? How big of an explosion can they create? And then each arc typically built up to a massive display of that violence, that power. Now, Dragon Ball is great because it fully embraces that identity and it doesn't hide from it at all. It's built around it almost exclusively. But most other shows like it, and even current superhero movies, hit the same wall. Power creep. Avatar doesn't hit those walls. Avatar understands power so well that it makes every other part of the show better. So let's work backwards. What is power creep? It's essentially the cycle in long-form fiction where your characters continue to get more powerful. So you have to keep creating new characters who are even more powerful than them, which then requires you to go back and amp up the older character's power, and so on and so forth until everyone is almost comically. Yeah. Avatar avoids this trap in two ways. One is that the show is really based on balance, not good versus evil. Much like this, which I think is a clear thematic inspiration. There is good and evil, but the show is really about restoring balance when every system fails. In Season 2's The Guru, we get spiritual balance explanations. In Season 3's The Firebending Masters, we get fire not as destruction, but life. Stuff like this allows the show to work in restraint. Power creep and scaling becomes less important when not everything needs to end in violence. When the obvious ending isn't always the expectation. Whether it's Katara sparing the man who took her mother from her, or Zuko almost choosing redemption, there's always a third option. We even see the cycle of revenge between nations in Avatar and the Fire Lord painted as a trap. The climax of the entire series is literally about finding a non-violent solution. Avatar's real power system isn't bending, it's moral restraint. So you never know how conflicts will end, and in turn, you're not always waiting for more and more power. But Avatar's real foundation is in that bending system. It separates the show and elevates it in such a unique way because it stops it from reaching absurdity. It keeps it grounded and for the most part, far away from power creep. You've seen media surely that escalates power endlessly. The MCU is currently struggling partially as a result of this. Many anime that start great have lost favor over its run due to this. Comic books have been chasing a solution to this problem for decades. But here, we have element bending, which limits the opportunities for this issue to pop up. Even the best benders have strict limitations: stamina, creativity, and the environment. In Blind Bandit, we see how important the mental side is for earthbending. In Bitterwork, we see bending through a philosophical lens. It's through technique, not raw power, that we see growth in the character's abilities. Characters don't level up, they shift their mindset. So back to Bitterwork. Air philosophy is evade and flow. Earth is stay firm and confront. Aang can't earthbend properly until he changes how he thinks about conflict. So improvement isn't stronger attacks, it's deeper understanding. Like this once again. So techniques replace power scale, keeping the system grounded.
No lightning today? What's the matter? Afraid I'll redirect it?
Instead of teaching Zuko to shoot lightning, he learns how to redirect it. Defensive, knowledge overcoming strength. Toph realizes metal contains earth, so she learns how to bend the impurities in it. Not getting stronger necessarily, but smarter. To get even more specific, blood bending. Very, very powerful. However, it's also met with strict limitations. Traumatic, morally wrong, only during a full moon. And we see it through the lens of what is essentially psychological horror. The show introduces power, shows us its terror, and then immediately restricts it. The exact opposite of power creep. It is a pure understanding of how to use power and how to stop it from going wrong.
Will you go penguin sledding with me? Sure.
Avatar the
I
Last
guess.
Airbender has aged incredibly well. And I think that's for a lot of reasons. It's lovingly made, carefully crafted, surprisingly adult storytelling. It understands that you can grow with your audience. You don't have to stagnate. You don't have to get stuck in what you started as. That pacing matters just as much as your characters, that influences can be influences and not your entire identity. But more than anything else, it knows what far too much of fiction forgets, and maybe people. That power is not everything, and getting more powerful doesn't always have to be the goal. That your characters, that people can learn just as easily as they can fight. That there is and always will be a third option. At the end of this show that on the surface is about big fights and battles and essentially superpowers, you remember the people and the journey. And in that way, a whole lot of media could stand to learn a thing or two from Aang and Avatar the Last Airbender.
Perfection and power are overrated. I think you are very wise to choose happiness and love.
I'm Dewey. That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this one, press that like button down below. And if you haven't yet done so, hit subscribe and hit that little notification bell. That just actually makes sure you're notified when something comes to the channel. And this has been